All right, well, thank you everyone for attending today's webinar Wednesday. Today's topic is the science to advance social change via the punk rock ethos presented by Cynthia Prieto-Diaz. So as you know, this is MBPHE's 15th year of certification. And so in that time, we've certified over 12,000 public health professionals. So we're very excited for all of you to be a part of this community and very excited for Cynthia to be here today. So Cynthia's background is that she's a full cycle biomedical engineer promoting health and wellness for all, implementing community impact projects and focusing on environmental justice in the greater San Francisco Bay Area. So with that, I'd like to turn it over to Cynthia and she will take it from there.
Hi, thank you, Ashley. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for your time today. Like Ashley said, I will be sharing how we can use science to advance social change via a punk rock ethos. Once again, my name is Cynthia Prieto-Diaz, or you may call me CPD. All right, let's get started. Let's try. Nice. Here we go. Yes, before we jump in, I would like to disclose that I am not a lawyer, so I will be reading this verbatim. The presentation is for inspirational and educational purposes only. Opinions and/or points of view expressed here within are the points of view and experiences of the presenter, me, and does not necessarily represent the official position or policies of any organization, company, board, or commission the presenter may be associated with. Nothing within this presentation constitutes as legal advice. So thank you. All right. To help guide our conversation today, the agenda for this session will be walking through these slides with the aim of making it as interactive for you as possible. So please feel free to leave comments or questions in the chat. We will start with a brief about me, followed by using the scientific method for social good, followed by 3 case studies, then a call to action, and finally, Ashley from the National Board of Public Health Examiners will help close out this session. So about me, it was at the height, so let's rewind really quickly. So at the height of the pandemic, that is where I was really inspired to take a larger role in my immediate community here in the greater San Francisco Bay Area, where I was reared. This is that story. May it help you understand why I got involved and inspire you or help keep you inspired to do the same. So first and foremost, we're going to start from the bottom and go to the top. So I am a stubborn optimist, which means I have the perspective that yes, times and things can be challenging, but they are just opportunities for improvement and growth. By training, I am an applied scientist. So shout out to Cal Poly Pomona, where I received my bachelor's in biotechnology and a minor in chemistry. I also have a master's in public health from West Coast University. And yes, so by profession, full cycle biomedical engineer, helping to develop and sustain class 3 and class 2 medical devices. Presently, I am a civic scientist with engineers and scientists acting locally, helping to encourage others to leverage their scientific training to advance environmental justice through knowledge sharing and a do-it-yourself attitude. I'm also part of the executive team with 500 women scientists that is focused on changing the face of STEM, but also making science open, accessible, and inclusive for everyone. And I would like to also give a shout out to the strong women that surround me, starting with my mother, my older sisters, and all my wonderful friends. So thank you. All right. So let's get into it. Using the scientific method for social good, here we have do-it-yourself shenanigans, and science can be punk AF. So this is just a reminder that if us as STEM folks, we have the advantage of leaning into that training and using that training for social good. So how do we start? By getting outside and just observing the world around us, and documenting. Next, starting to question what we are observing, followed by researching and developing hypotheses like why is this occurring, and making potential connections about what is being observed. Next, and probably my favorite part, is the experimenting part. So developing potential solutions, then trying new things like Dr. Frankenstein. And because we are in STEM and in science, collecting and analyzing data, because data to help make evidence-based decisions. So finally, being able to communicate with all stakeholders like our community members, and being able to advise local government, and seeking feedback on areas of improvement, and pivoting whenever necessary. Sometimes priorities shift, so being able to pivot whenever necessary. Um, Next, learning from failures, but also being brave enough and taking the accountability to learn from those failures and the progress that we were able to make, and not being scared to start again. We're not always going to know what to do. Okay, so because I want to acknowledge the CPH domain that this falls into, so acknowledging health equity and social justice. So I would just like to reemphasize that health equity and social justice are intimately connected with identifying the needs of a community. Think assessments, observations. Again, I will be saying observations a lot. But also, what is the community telling you? Yes, there are technical tools. We may have the theories, especially if you also have a master's in public health. I'm sure you know about the theories, like the social ecological model to help explain factors impacting health. But really, it's about the people. Next, it's about analyzing the availability of resources and being able to perform a gap analysis, um, especially when we're advocating on behalf of our communities that may be underserved. So, and again, going back to us being public health professionals, and also just being community members, our goal is to address health disparities, and this brings in developing and implementing programs to help improve health and wellness. But it can also look like making bolder moves when it comes to informing policies or rectifying policies of the past. For example, something that I am very interested in is better understanding land use for its implications on air quality. So, so now we might be flying through these, but now I will be jumping into the case studies, so the community impact projects. As I mentioned, I started elevating my concerns since I was working from home, and for the first time experiencing my neighborhood 365, 24/7. And I was also, during that time, I was also very mindful of the privilege that I had being able to work from home. So I saw it as my personal responsibility and my duty to act on behalf of my community. So the case studies I will be going over includes uh, closing the gaps in air quality monitoring, especially in underserved areas, reducing toxic litter like cigarette butts from ending in our shared waterways, and fighting community blight by promoting this culture of environmental stewardship and ownership of where we live. So case study one, how did it start? It started, as I was saying, just observing, just being out in my community. noticing continuous pollution and noise being generated from local businesses. Also, through researching, I learned that San Leandro is currently underserved, and the polluted areas of concern were not readily represented on the live air quality monitoring maps or data provided by the city. So I started hypothesizing, are these areas that don't have readily available data, have higher exposure rates? And that's when I started to just wanting to document my findings, as well as start developing potential solutions, because I am a firm believer in not just elevating concerns, but what can we do about it? So that's how I also started engaging with local governments. So to the right of your screen, you will see a screenshot of the Cal Environmental for San Leandro within the areas. Yes, for San Leandro, where I reside here in the Bay Area. And you can see that the orange and yellow and red represent elevated levels of pollution. So outcomes and impact. What did I do after these observations? So after elevating my concerns, along with presenting potential solutions, it led me to partner with the City of San Leandro to help identify locations for fixed air quality monitors, especially in areas that didn't have any. Next, I petitioned for the acquisition of affordable and portable air quality monitors through the Library of Things and getting the program highlighted on the EPA's Loan Center program for region. Sorry, my laptop wanted to restart. Yes, so um, yes, I'm just going to rewind really quickly. So getting it highlighted on the EPA's website. I also wanted to be able to connect my community with the availability of these sensors. So I helped organize and facilitate a three-part workshop series on environmental justice and air quality, with the kind support from the San Leandro Resilience Hubs initiative. And the photo here was from our second workshop, where we very punk rock. We did a DIY air filter. We had an excellent turnout, and we were able to provide 10 of these filters for individuals. Our next our next case study was provided by I also like to run, and I enjoy spending time running around my neighborhood. So as I often do this, I'm confronted with just rubbish or continuous cigarette butt litter, especially in certain areas. So I wanted to move beyond just me cleaning my side of the street, but and through that, I really sought feedback from my neighbors. And then I decided to implement just a DIY tin can from, yeah, so an upcycled tin can with a label. Um, and I leveraged an existing street post for full transparency. I did attempt to work with public works and property managers to seek, other available locations, or if we could collaborate on something, but the communications were slow, or they just stopped. So I figured it's easier to ask forgiveness than to get permission, especially if you're helping to protect our waterways. So again, leveraged existing infrastructure that was already approved for this DIY experiment. So how did that go? I am happy to report that as of today, more than 800 cigarette butts have been diverted from our beautiful oceans with the upcycled can and just local cleanup efforts. So whenever I am out in the community picking it up and collecting those cigarette butts, because I am a scientist. So data has been tracked using the CleanSwell app and the Tides which stands for the Trash Information and Data for Education and Solutions, to perform data analysis. Again, trying to collect that evidence. Um, and then through research, I learned that TerraCycle had a free take back program for which approximately 9 pounds of the discarded cigarette butts and other tobacco related trash has been sent back for recycling, where these materials can then be separated to their individual components and turned into other useful materials through a circular economy model. So also allowing me to communicate um, to the city about reimagining what litter can look like. Uh, yeah, so that's been very exciting. Yes, and then our final case study includes fighting community blights. Again, starting with observing litter and illegal dumping, especially in public right-of-way areas while being out in the community, researching and also learning that areas with more rubbish or litter may be associated with perceived risk or actual crime. And then going back and developing proposals on how we could address these high litter areas and share them with local government. So such proposals have included expanding the adopt a drain efforts that the city already has to include a broader scope. So include adopt the place or adopt the spot, and allowing neighbors to take accountability for their areas. And also, I am currently working on obtaining public works data to see if there are areas within the city that may be able to be adopted by community members. Um, so yes, to help continue to address high litter and illegal dumping, um, or identify them for future cleanup efforts. And then also learning from other municipalities that have reduced their own litter and how they've been able to rethink their garbage to one that maybe is zero waste. So outcomes from these efforts have included also organizing and facilitating my own cleanups. So again, I've been collecting data and quantifying it under Harlan Has Hearts. So, and as of today, we've been able to remove more than 113 pounds of trash from public areas. But also these efforts have allowed me to explore that there are limitations of recycling and we can't clean up everything, and looking into other alternatives. So addressing root causes. And a lot of that has been now me pivoting to the perspective of accountability of producers related to extended PLM, so product lifecycle management, extended producer responsibility, and perhaps providing incentives for producers to take on the proper disposal and recycling of their own products, and really thinking about um, promoting a circular economy. All right, so we're still flying through this presentation, but I think um, the biggest, what I would want folks to take from this presentation, the biggest takeaways would be that we don't always need the coolest gadgets to have impact today. You can start where you are with what you already know and have. And then also, I would really encourage you all that if you have the ability um, to do something, to do something. So if you see something, just do something about it. All right, this is also aligned with that. So a call to action, getting involved DIY style. What can you do to help advance public health? Like I had mentioned. So everything and anything is now within the scope of public health. So I would encourage you to get creative public work, public works, well, that too, but public health is everywhere and within our living environment. So I will say it louder with feeling. So see something, do something. Yes. So that's one part. But also, how can I influence others to do the same? So I would say live out loud. I wear my values on my sleeve, and yes, I used to think that caring was a weakness, and sometimes I would get nervous on sharing how I felt or my perspectives, but now I see my empathy and and wanting to do something about it as one of my greatest strengths. So that's how you get other people to join you. And also don't be scared to share your ideas with the world. Um, yes, so I would also say that um, what can be done in your community to help solve a problem related to health equity would be learning from others in your community. That's great that we might be certified in public health. We might have that technical knowledge and those skills, um, but others around you may have more lived experience than you. So being able to be humbled enough to seek out those insights and to get to know our community members and our neighbors, and anyone that we might interact with on a daily basis. So yes, inspirations. I will make this presentation available for anyone that's interested. I have some music, also spoken word. Yes, and then there's also resources. So leaving you with 3 resources because I also want to convey to you that we don't have to go it alone. We can build a community of people that want to make an impact. So Alameda has this great "What can one person do?" a quick guide, also a link to the tides, how I've been able to quantify my cleanup efforts and to measure the impact. And also Union of Concerned Scientists has this great guide on a scientist community partnership that I think is very helpful. And I wish I would have known about it earlier in my own journey. All right, I wanted to leave room for questions. So thank you so much. Yes, thank you so much for your time and to the National Board of Public Health Examiners for this opportunity. To wrap up, I want to be mindful that a lot of the topics when we're talking about social justice, environmental justice, um, can invoke strong emotions within us. Anger being one of them. From personal experience, I know that anger can fuel us, but I also know that anger is very hard to sustain. So I so I want to encourage us to be nourished by love for our fellow earthlings and also for this planet and make it better for everyone. So I'd love to learn what other people are doing and be able to support you. So please feel free to stay connected. And to end here, I just want to read this quote by Henry Rollins, which I identify with so much. So I will be reading it verbatim. No such thing as spare time, no such thing as free time, no such thing as downtime. All you got is lifetime. Go.
It's a great way to end it. So if we have any questions, can you please put them in the Q&A section or the chat, and we will be going over them with Cynthia. So let's start out. Cynthia, the first question I have for you is, what do you find fulfilling about engaging in public health at a grassroots level?
Oh golly, I forgot we were doing questions. So fulfilling. Um, I find it thrilling that anyone can participate. It's especially at the grassroots level, like you don't need to have a PhD to make a difference. That's all well and good, and that's awesome. But I'm a firm believer that anyone can make a positive difference if, and to me, that's been very rewarding, and also just gaining that confidence within myself to do something.
Great. We have another question from Gretchen. Are there any examples of existing companies or policies that have incentives for disposal or reducing waste slash litter of products they create and sell? This is a really cool idea, and we know we can only influence individual behavior so much. So this seems like a viable option for more structural change.
Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, so TerraCycle is an organization that I learned about that they do have free recycling programs. I think they've even expanded some to like hair salons and especially they're targeting hard to recycle waste or hard to yes, so that's a great opportunity. Also, full disclosure, I might be a little biased. So I recently joined Climate Base as a fellow. And I am learning about um, a lot of organizations that want to help mitigate like waste management. But also, I would encourage folks that like if we don't see potential solutions out there, like maybe this is an opportunity for entrepreneurship.
Someone in the comments just said, I want to share a great collaborator and partner for air quality monitoring in local communities. It's Just Air. So I'm going to put this over here in the chat and so everyone can see it. You can also put that in there. I don't know. Have you ever heard of this company, Cynthia?
Just Air. Are they a nonprofit? I think I may have come across them if they're not a nonprofit. Um, yes, but I am open to learning about because again, I am not an expert in all things air quality. This just became a project and now I am fully invested because I love breathing air.
As
So
do we
yes,
all.
thank you.
Okay, another question. Are there any materials you'd recommend for attendees that are interested in DIY approach to public health?
Yes. So that collaboration with here, maybe I can go back my slides, but yes, for yes, the guide by the Union of Concerned Scientists. Again, I wish I would have known about this before I started these endeavors because it's more structured. The way that I went about it was like, I gotta do something now. And then the research came, and then it was also me trying to like engage with these companies on like, how do I get um, an affordable sensor, right, for my community and trying to get it through the manufacturer directly or
Mhm.
learning about nonprofits in this space. So yes.
Yeah, great. Oh, another question from one of our attendees. You mentioned anger as a common motivator. What other sorry, I'm sorry, let me start over. What other emotions or motivations do you have you found to be the most impactful and effective in gaining the buy-in from your communities?
Oof. Yeah,
And
sorry. I was
the
laughing
follow-up
at
to
the
that is,
anger.
yeah.
I was laughing at the anger because so Henry Rollins talks about yeah, and for inspirations, I also put one of his spoken words there, but just being driven by anger, but it could be very positive in the sense that like, oh, I'm so angry, I have to do something about it. So, but when I engage with other community members, because yes, I want to acknowledge that sometimes these topics are very heavy. I also want to come with an open mind to these conversations because I need to acknowledge, you know, where am I? And if folks are concerned about where their next meal is going to be, saving the environment is not really a priority for them, right? So being able to understand where other people are, that's all well and good that, you know, I want to protect the fish. um, but being realistic when I communicate that with like for example like my neighbors or my community at large and making it more um I hope I'm answering this question but making it more about not just protecting our environment, but connecting it to them. For example, like, hey, if we have a healthier environment, that's going to be, I mean, a healthier you. I want you to be healthy, right? So changing that perspective in that way.
Yeah. All right. And this question is somewhat selfish, but also I'm curious about this. So how do you think your CPH certification helped you prepare for your personal and professional endeavors?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's not like when I'm out in the community, I'm getting like quizzed on like the domains and I gotta be like on point. But for me, the certification and going back to get a master's in public health really gave me the confidence and also I would say the audacity to act on behalf of my community. Like if I see something, I feel bold enough to like, okay, if no one's gonna address it, then I guess I have to be the one to address it. So that's what I've appreciated. Also, it's allowed me to communicate to others like, hey, I am trying to stay up to date and current because public health is evolving, right? And prior to the pandemic, I don't really felt that like I felt like no one really cared about public health. Then all of a sudden the pandemic happened and everyone's like, "Oh, public health, what is that?" Like all of a sudden everyone was a public health advocate or or not, but but it started getting people to talk about it.
Mhm. Yeah, great, great. So do you have any other projects or things coming out on the pipeline that you'd like to share?
Ah, yes. Sorry, I was trying to put on this sweatshirt. Um, yes. So projects, it would be formalizing a lot of the case studies that I've already mentioned, but also into one of the questions earlier, thinking about, and now being a climate-based fellow, thinking about how do I communicate this to make, to help impact policy decisions and also, excuse me, get the city to invest in environmental stewardship, for example, by making it, and it sounds, I acknowledge that we live in a capitalistic society, so making it about, okay, maybe what would happen if we pivot to a greener economy or a circular economy that would create jobs, and then that's how I can also have conversations with other individuals um, to make them invested. They're like, hey, yeah, that is a great idea.
Yeah, great. So we have a question from Maria, and I think this is going to be our last question. Maria says, I'm a public health person who happens to be younger than most people at the table, and sometimes the only person of color in spaces. I'm in the transportation and climate committees. So what advice do you have for being an effective public health communicator and educator in those spaces?
Oof, that's a hard one. I relate to this so hard, especially in my earlier career, um, because working in biomedical engineering, yes, I was the youngest. Um, yeah, I would discourage you from doing what I did, which is attempting to fit the mold of what I thought, an engineer should be like. And maybe it comes with time, or just, you get older and you're just like, degaff. But I would encourage you in those spaces to seek allies. Something I wish I would have done is um, talk with individuals that maybe, that may be more senior to you if you have the ability to. And if you don't, then maybe outside of those circles that you mentioned. Um, and pitching ideas or how maybe you could present some of the topics that you want to present in those spaces. Um, yeah, I hope that's helpful. because I feel like for myself, it's only been like uh through these like last couple years where I felt like I've been able to really like be myself in spaces and be like, well, this is what I bring to the table. And again, I think maybe that just comes with time. And, you know, I've been in like med tech for like more than 10 plus years.
Mhm.
So just feeling almost like authority, like, hey, no, I know what's going on. So yeah.
Yeah. And I think it's great advice to seek out allies and other people, even maybe not in the committee that, like you said, that you may be encountering, but other people to give you advice and help you along. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, so with that, I think that's the end of our questions today. I want to say thank you to all of you for attending, and a special thank you to Cynthia for presenting and being such a wonderful, authentic presenter today and sharing her experiences with us. I hope you will join us next month. Our topic is public health microbiology in the 21st century under the landscape of climate change. So we will be doing that next month on the second Wednesday. So thank you, everyone, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.
Thank you.
Bye.